What's going on, guys? So, normally I do this. It's Did I Fix? And I do it as part of the Scene Snobs podcast. But we're taking the week off this week. But I didn't want you to miss out. And I had such a great conversation this weekend at Carolina Fear Fest with one of our patrons, Dan the Master Shake. And he was talking about the movie Chasing Amy. He said how much he really wasn't a big fan of it. And then a couple of other members of the Snob Nation had come over, like Dale and Chris and things like that. And we were talking about it all together. And some of us were questioning, like, oh, how come you don't like it? And I kind of understood where he was coming from, and I offered what I thought would have made the movie better, in my opinion, because I do see his point. And I do think that there are things and elements that could have changed the movie Chasing Amy for the better. So we got into a really fun kind of, back and forth about it, talk, and they really liked my idea. So I thought I would do this in place of the fact that there is no Scene Snobs podcast this week. You can check one out, all new next week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. And I will have an all new Did I Fix as well. We're doing Howard the Duck, so make sure to come back for that. But I want to talk about Chasing Amy. So I love Kevin Smith. I love Kevin Smith's movies. I think his interactions are fantastic. I think his writing is great. His movies really take you to different places. And being from Jersey, I think it's always got a soft spot in my heart. He really takes chances on different things, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's always great, in my opinion, because it's something different. It's something you don't really see much in other places, and I appreciate that about directors and filmmakers of all types that do that. So with Chasing Amy, which is one of my favorite movies, it is definitely a product of its time. That is not a movie that you could make today. And there's a good reason for that. Now, none of those jokes, like if this were to be remade today, would I use most of the jokes? No, absolutely not. But do they work for what it was in the 90s when it came out? Absolutely does. This is what the culture was. This is what the culture surrounding homosexuality was. This is what the culture surrounding toxic masculinity was. This is just so much of how the world kind of viewed things. And Kevin Smith kind of trying to observe that and turn things on its head, I think really pegged it right. The things that I think he didn't get right in this, that I do think would fix the movie really well, is that he had he didn't go too deep into places where I thought he should have. One, I thought Banky should have come out in the end. Later in a different movie, we do find out that Banky is homosexual, and I think that works because that fits the theme and where Banky's choices and his anger come from in this movie. And I was hoping that it would fit within how that worked in this movie. If they had just given you that reveal, maybe at the end, where he kind of went off and did his thing, like maybe he didn't have to come out, but like maybe it was something alluded to. I felt like that would have added a lot more layer to Banky and why he was, not just make him a loudmouth kind of jerk. But the biggest problem of all in this movie, a lot of people put it, I think, on Joey Lauren Adams' character. A lot of people put it on, different elements. It's Holden McNeil's character. It's Ben Affleck. He is too likable of a character. And the problem is, it's okay to be likable, but we forget that he's supposed to be the villain of the story. He is the true antagonist. He's pushing too hard. And I thought that, yeah, you can keep him likable, but you need to keep him likable in the way that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in 500 Days of Summer is likable. But he's still the villain of the story. He's the wrong one. He's not right in this. And it starts all over at the end. If you go see that movie, there's a lot of twists and turns, and it takes a lot of times to go see it where you realize, like, he's not the good guy. He doesn't deserve what he's looking for in this. And I think the same can be said about Holden. Now, the fact that he doesn't get what he wants, and at the end, he's kind of come to the idea that I'm not going to get it, I think that works really well. I like it. I also like that years later that they kind of rectified this, and Kevin Smith knew this in the end, and they added an element of friendship, and that they never did get back together, but there was an element of fatherhood there. With the reboot, he kind of touched down on it. I like that element to it. But I thought if you really wanted to fix Chasing Amy in that way and make it more of a movie that told you exactly or went exactly for what I think it was trying to go for, you needed to make Holden a little bit more recognizable as the antagonist. He just wasn't enough so. You just liked him and wanted him to succeed so much, especially coming from the perspective of a man, a straight white man. You're like, oh, well, he's in love. He wants to. He just wants to be with her, and that's not, when you grow older and you start realizing things, yeah, it's not the way it needs to be. And I think because so many young people at that time are watching the movie, you need to turn it on its head. You need to have that kind of in your face more. Like, I can watch it now and recognize that, but it is subtle and is very subtle, and he's still very likable, so it's hard. But I think if you turned it around and you really made it a little more like, he is the unlikable character, he is the one that is causing the problems in his friends and his lives, and that he is the antagonist ultimately in this, then you realize this is a much better movie as it goes along, you know? And again, just because he's the antagonist doesn't mean that it has to be terrible in the end. He can learn his lesson and at the end come out better for it. And we can still take this likable character who is the antagonist and say he became more of a heroic figure in the end because he learned his lesson and moved on. I would have liked to have seen that more. I think that's how you fix Chasing Amy. Kevin Smith stepping in his role as Silent Bob and kind of summing the whole thing up in this world. Like, he tells the story, and that story is telling him he is the villain of the story. And I love that. That is the in your face, but a lot of people didn't pick up on it. I think a lot of people took the joke that happened immediately afterwards and didn't associate it with, oh, this is what Holden is. And I think that's was evident, like, a lot of times when I talk about this movie with people, that he is supposed to be the antagonist. They don't see it that way, but he is. And I just wish it was more evident. So if it was, I think that would be a better fix for this movie. And that's the only way I'd say that this movie should be fixed. I think it's a great movie. I think it's a great product of its time. I think it stands the test of time as an element of what it was. I do not compare it to what today's standards are, and I never will. You never should when it comes to movies like that. But I would love to know what you think. Did I fix the movie? Does it work? Do you think that Holden should have been shown more as a villain? Do you think Banky should have come out as homosexual in the movie? Even if he didn't come, like I said, even if he didn't come out, but it was, in the end, a little more clear that he was, rather than save it for a couple movies down the line or something. I just think it would have added an element, or it would have added just like that sort of thing where it's like, all right, Banky, we know you're kind of suffering then, and we would have more sympathy for him and not seen him as the antagonist through all of this. We would have had that sympathy and the empathy for what he's going through, especially in a time where it's very tumultuous for homosexuals and being able to come out and say that. So, that's just how I feel about the movie. I would love to know what you guys think. Sound off in the comments. Let me know. Let's talk about it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe. Make sure to hit that notification bell because we always have great videos coming out and more. Make sure to check out the Scene Snobs Podcast. This is where we do Did I Fix Most? This is just a one-off because we're off this week, but I would love for you to check it out. We do other great stuff as well. Warp Factor Fiction, our Star Trek show, Quarter Impulse, which is our companion series to that. It's 5 takeaways and more. So go check that out. Follow us, rate and review us if you see our podcast. We'd love to have you join up on the Snobs Nation Patreon or Discord. Everything, it's all linked down below. Thank you again for watching. I'm Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Take care.